Today is Monday, Yud Tes Shvat Tovshin Ayin Daled. We're in Teres Menachem, Sefer Mamar, Tovshin Yud Aleph, Tovshin Yud Beis. In the Mamar, Sihiye Meshakeiloh of Shabbos Pashas Mishpatim, Tovshin Yud Beis, and we are on page Reish Yud Tes. Having established that Avodas Hashem, man's service of Hashem, is meaningful so far as the levels of godliness that are vested within the chain order of creation, and also so far as Hashem himself, who's beyond being vested in the chain order of creation, beyond everything, with the distinction, as the Rebbe articulated it at the end of chapter 3. The Rebbe began in chapter 4 to explain what avodah, the term avodah, means. Serving Hashem. The Hebrew word to that is avodas Hashem, avodah. And that's from the verse that comes before the opening verse of this Mamar, which is Va'avadatem es Havaya lekechem, you should serve Hashem. And he explained that service is like a servant serving a master. And the fundamental characteristic, component, necessary for that service to take place is Kabbalah Soil, the acceptance of the yoke of the master, which is linked to Yira, fear, and awe. That is why our day begins with Moida Ani, our davening begins with Hoidu Hashem. All of this precedes what? Our contemplations into the greatness of Hashem. Why? Because Moida Ani, Hoidu Hashem, denotes submission. We submit ourselves to Hashem, much like a servant submits himself and accepts the yoke of the master. That's what we're up to. It's page Reish Yud Tes, at the beginning of the new paragraph, Omnam. Omnam, however, since this verse, and you shall serve Hashem your God, Koi gam al inyan tefillah, refers also to the concept of davening, prayer. Meshakos of Rambam. How do we know that this verse also relates to prayer? Because as Mamar writes at the opening of the laws of prayer, mitzvahs asay lihispalel chulu, it is a positive commandment to pray to Hashem. How do we know? Says the Rambam Shene'emar, as the verse states, Va'avadatem es Havaya lekechem, and you should serve Hashem your God. This pasuk, precisely the same verse that the Rebbe is quoting in this Mamar. And the Rambam carries on, Shmuel Amadnu. We have learned from tradition, in other words, it's been handed down to us from generation to generation, that this service that the verse is referring to in this pasuk is hitfilah. This is prayer. And it carries on, Shenemar, as it says in another verse, something that we say more than twice a day. In Kriyas Shema, the second part of Kriyas Shema, Vayim Shemaya, we say, Ula avdei b'chol levavchem, and you should serve Hashem with all your heart. Amru Chachamim, and our sages say on this verse in Masechta Tainis, in the tractate of Tainis in the Talmud, Eizu hi avodah shebelev, when the verse says, serve Him with all your heart. How do you serve with all your heart? What service can one possibly provide with the heart? Zu tefillah. This is prayer. Why? Because prayer denotes kavana, right? Intention, concentration, feeling, connection. All these are matters that relate to what? To the heart. So, bottom line, we've established that serving Hashem your God, which is the verse that we're discussing, refers also to what? To davening. So from the fact that it also refers to davening, move on to prayer, it's understood that this includes also, in addition to serving Hashem with fear and with the acceptance of the yoke, as the Rebbe explained in the first part of this chapter, it also includes also serving Hashem with love. Because this is the concept of davening, this is the idea of davening, which is what? Connecting to Hashem with love, as the Zohar states, Leis pulchana ke pulchana derichim musa. There is no service like the davening. There's no davening or service like the davening and service of love. So what do we see from all of this? What's the bottom line? That when we say that you should serve Hashem your God, it must include not only serving Hashem with fear, but also serving Hashem with love. Why is that? Why is it that it is so important that serving Hashem with love should also be included in the instruction, the biblical instruction that we should serve Hashem? To explain this, because for the effect of prayer is the effect of prayer is both within the godly soul and also within the animal soul. Why? Because the idea of prayer is miloshen teufel. The word tefillah comes from the expression of teufel, which means connection. Shehu inyan hachibur, which is the idea of connection or fusing. I believe there's a Mishnah in where is it? Meshakeiloh. Ha-teufel kli cheres. The idea is that there's the difference in terms of tumah v'tara, ritual purity and impurity of vessels. There's a difference between shards, earthen shards, and an earthen vessel. What happens if you take shards and you glue them together, you stick them together and turn them into a vessel? I believe that's what the Mishnah is referring to. And the expression the Mishnah uses over there is ha-teufel kli cheres. If somebody binds or glues an earthen vessel. So what do we see? That tefillah, the word tefillah is from the expression of teufel, connection. Shal yoda, why is it called tefillah? What are we connecting? What is being connected through prayer? Shal yoda nasis ischabrus nefesh alakisim shoshem mekera. Because through prayer, the godly soul connects with its source, its root and its source. That's why it's called tefillah. Connection. The godly soul connects with its source, with Hashem. That's one point of davening. There's another point to davening. There's another concept in davening that comes about through davening. Through prayer, we refine also the animal soul. And in addition to that, we also lift the divine sparks of energy which are vested within one's body and within one share in the world. As we learned previously, that Hashem has designated a part in the world which is related to each particular individual, has a part of the world, aside from looking after himself in the spiritual sense. He also needs to look after a part in the world, and there is this interaction between the activities, the actions of the human being, and the divine energy that is vested and manifest and enhanced in the world. So davening does that as well. And these two aspects that are connected to davening, A, the connection that comes about between the godly soul and Hashem, and B, the refinement of one's body and the lifting of the divine sparks of energy in the refinement of one's animal soul, and the lifting of the divine sparks of energy that are of kedusha that are found in one's body and one's share of the world. These two ideas are specifically connected to serving Hashem with love, as opposed to what? Serving Hashem with fear, with yira. Why? So the Rebbe articulates this. The Rebbe explains the hinei. What is the idea of refinement? Change. Right? Change. I apologize. When the Rebbe says that these two ideas are connected to the serving Hashem with love, he's referring to the two aspects of davening that it affects outside the godly soul. In other words, what are the two aspects? Number one, let's go back. Davening brings about connection of the godly soul to its source. Davening brings about refining of the animal soul. And davening brings about the lifting of the divine sparks of holiness that are within one's body and within one's part designated to him in the world. Right? So these two aspects, which two aspects? The refinement of the animal soul that comes through davening, and the lifting of the divine sparks of Kedusha that are found within one's body, within one's designated share of the world. These two things have to necessitate specifically Avodas Hashem with love, with ahava. Why? Because they are necessarily things, ideas of change. And fear does not bring change. Fear imposes. Fear nullifies. But it doesn't change. For in serving Hashem only with fear and with the acceptance of the yoke, he hasn't changed himself. And he hasn't affected the refinement of the animal soul. As we see in actuality, there are some individuals that have natural fear of Hashem, and with a very light contemplation, they could awaken the fear within them to turn away from the bad and to turn to the good. And nevertheless, even when their conduct in turning away from the bad and doing the good is intact, is complete, nevertheless, top of page Reish Chof, their soul remains, their animal soul remains, in its force and in its strength as it is when it is born. Not only does it remain in its original strength, even more so, the animal soul has become even stronger as time went by. Why? Through abundance of usage. This is a concept that the Rebbe brings in Tanya, and we learned already a number of times in the previous Mamarim, that the Nefesh Habam is the animal soul. It's like a muscle. What happens when you exercise a muscle? It becomes stronger. The Nefesh Habam is, when we use it, becomes stronger. The animal soul. So the Kivin Shali de Aveda Meira Lepal Bir Bezichach Nefesh Habam is, since through serving Hashem out of fear, one hasn't brought about the refinement of the animal soul. Therefore, it's not only now that he is lacking in his, not only is he deficient in what? In refining the animal soul, but the fact that the animal soul was not refined also causes a deficiency in the godly soul. The therefore, he hasn't also brought about the connection between the godly soul and its source. Why? How does the godly soul connect to Hashem? The godly soul connects to Hashem through the fact that it fulfills Hashem's will. What is Hashem's will? Hashem's will is that the godly soul should refine the body and the animal soul. It is for this purpose that the godly soul came down below. Why? The godly soul itself does not need any fixing. It's not lacking anything. It's not deficient in anything before it came down into this world. So why send down the godly soul here? Just to reconnect to Hashem? There's no point. When it was up there before he sent it down, it was also connected to Hashem. The reason why the godly soul comes down below, it is in order to refine the body and the animal soul. And as long as the godly soul does not effectuate a refinement in the animal soul, he hasn't fulfilled Hashem's will. And therefore he hasn't affected the connection of his godly soul with its source. So that is, if the Aveda is what? Meira, out of fear. The Dafke B'Aveda Ma'ava, it is specifically through serving Hashem. Out of love, through which one brings about the refinement of the animal soul. It's specifically through that This also affects and brings about the connection of the godly soul with its source. That's number one. That's number one reason. First reason why it's not enough to serve Hashem out of fear, but you also have to serve Hashem out of love. Another point why it is that it's not sufficient to have service of Hashem out of fear, but it's also necessary, imperative, vital, also to have the service of Hashem out of love. Because the expression of avodah, service, is from the expression of ibud oiris, which means working over tanning, taking a piece of hide, animal hide, and working it, tanning hides. Just like when we tan hide, it is necessary that there should be a number of actions which come about through great toil until this hide becomes refined and worked through. The royally is klaf, and it's fit now to be parchment. All of parashas chulud, on which you can write the different portions of the Torah from mezuzah and tefillin and so on and so forth. So too, as the word avodah, service, denotes, which means working, this avodah Hashem, serving Hashem, needs to be in a manner of toil, great effort and great toil to exert oneself. Move on. And from this is understood that serving Hashem out of fear is not the true concept of service of Hashem. Why? Because when we serve Hashem with fear, the toil, the effort, it's not necessary to have such a great big effort. Why? Ukanal, as mentioned before, there are such people that have natural fear of God, and therefore it's natural. Once you have that fear, okay, so you do it with the acceptance of yoke. Therefore, it's imperative also to be serving Hashem out of love. Because the service of Hashem that emanates from love comes through tremendous toil, tremendous effort. And avodas Hashem denotes that you have to put in effort, you have to exert yourself in that service. When we say moving from this, it's understood. What's the point? What's the bottom line? The Rebbe goes back to what he started this section of the chapter with. When the verse says, and you shall serve Hashem your God, what does that include? Not only does it mean action, not only does it mean serving Hashem out of fear, but it also means serving Hashem out of love. This goes, it refers both to the service of Hashem out of fear, which is indeed the beginning of service, because you need that Kabbalah Sale, that acceptance of yoke, to kickstart you, to get going. But also refers to serving Hashem out of love, as the Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe, explains in his work called Kuntras Aveda, the Kuntras, his work of which describes serving Hashem, that the wholesomeness, when is serving Hashem complete? It is when you serve Hashem both out of fear and also out of love. Continue, Mr. Shem, tomorrow.